Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Sharon Noble, Director of the BC Coalition to Stop Smart Meters. Welcome to the show, Sharon.
Thank you very much, Jim.
You're pointing out that perhaps the Site C dam in BC, which taxpayers will be on the hook for somewhere around $9 billion, is $9 billion that perhaps should have been spent on something else.
That and the $1 billion plus spent on the smart meter program. Yeah, as we were discussing, many people like Rafe Mayer and economists like Eric Anderson have been pointing out for years that BC Hydro is making their projections and their business cases based on pretty flimsy projections in uses and consumption that have not been realistic. They've been wrong for the last 5 to 10 years, projecting that usage is going to increase almost exponentially, when, as a matter of fact, it's been decreasing. It's been decreasing as people become more concerned about conservation, as new appliances and things that are more efficient are being bought and used, and also because people are, the rates are going up, so people are being more careful. And Hydro is not recognizing this. Their the most recent projections to support Site C are showing, again, exponential increases for the next, say, 10 years. And this has not been what's happening anywhere. I haven't seen any statistics from any location, California, Michigan, Ontario, any place where the usage is increasing. In fact, the opposite is true. Consumption is going down. There's no justification for ruining our environment with Site C and running this province into bankruptcy. And this is what's happening, and this was one of the justifications for the smart meter program. And of course, the explanation saying that it will save energy has not been borne out anywhere. The smart meter program does not save energy in any way, shape, or form. What Hydro and other utility companies are seeing is that because of their harassment, the way they're treating people, and their increased rates, that people are dropping out. They're starting to go off-grid. They're starting to use solar panels that are becoming much more affordable, and batteries that are much more capable of storing power so that they can use those during periods where they can't get the sun or the wind or whatever they're using. And Hydro and the utility companies are running scared. They see that they're going to be having fewer and fewer people using their services, so the rates are going to have to go up, which will drive more people off, which will drive the rates even higher, and soon the only people who will be left to pay these horrendous costs are those people who can least afford it. They will be the senior citizens, the disabled, the young families, those very people who have been suffering so much through the smart meter program and the time of use billing and things like this. It's like a death spiral, Jim. But Hydro continues to come up with these phony numbers to justify their ridiculous decisions.
Well, a lot of the major big box stores in the U.S. now have covered their roofs with solar panels, and you just take a look at the typical shopping mall or a place like IKEA being covered with solar panels. They don't need Hydro.
That's right. And with new technology coming out, more and more of this is going to happen, whether it's through the wind, through those wonderful little wind trees that have been developed in France, or the solar panels, the new solar panels that are being developed in Turkey, that are not like the solar panels we have now. They have like accordion pleated, it looks like material, I'm sure it's not, but so that it increases the surface that receives the sun. There's constant technology, many people are spending a lot of work to make these things more efficient, because we can't continue to abuse the environment, whether it's flooding our farmlands or whether it's burning coal in factories. This is not sustainable. But, companies like Hydro are not keeping up with the times. They are like 19th and 20th century technology, and they're being left behind because they are not adapting. All they're doing is increasing their rates. This is their answer. This and flooding beautiful farmland like they're doing with Site C.
Well, another thing too, maybe the name BC Hydro forces them to use hydro. If they were called BC Energy, they'd be looking at the most ignored resource in British Columbia, which is tidal power.
Yep.
There's a company called Blue Energy based in Vancouver that is apparently now, I think, in 35 countries using tidal power. The one country that doesn't use it, has the most tidal power, is Canada.
Yeah, ironic, isn't it?
Yes. Well, you take a look at underneath Lionsgate Bridge four times a day, you get those huge runs of the tide. Yep. It looks like rapids. And that's unused power right there.
Yep. And you're right. It's all over the place. I've tried to sail against that tide. That's a mighty tide.
British Columbia has some of the highest tides in the world.
Well, there are so many, and look at the wind. I live on Vancouver Island where there's constant wind.
And Seymour Narrows, where they had to blow up that island because it was causing a giant tidal pool or, sucking ships down. Well, still, cruise ships will not go through there unless they're going with the current because it's so strong. They would go backwards otherwise.
There are lots of them. Desolation Sound, Race Rocks. There are so many areas like that. I mean, there are ones I don't even know about. You're right. We're missing a great opportunity. But this government and hydro are completely blind. This is happening around the world, and we're being left behind. And we're going to be sitting here with these dangerous, stupid things on our home, and all this stuff that they're developing that we don't need. We just don't need Site C. And it's been demonstrated over and over again that the people don't want it, we don't need it, and we won't be able to afford it. In 20 years, by the time it's finished, probably 75% of the people will be on solar or wind. Who's going to buy this? Stupid.
Another thing you're very concerned about is hydro is still harassing people to get smart meters.
Oh, man. This has been increasing over the last couple of weeks just terribly. Normally, I probably get 5 or 6 emails a week from people who are being pressured and harassed and pushed around by hydro. In the last week or week and a half, 2 weeks, I've been getting probably a couple of dozen a day. An 80-year-old woman who's being threatened with power being turned off. Right now, she's got a pacemaker, and her doctor has said, avoid wireless radiation, stay away from wireless devices. And hydro is telling her, you take a smart meter or we're turning your power off. Imagine. Is this what happens in British Columbia? This is unbelievable. And it's happening all of a sudden, a major, major push. And I haven't seen a push like this probably for about a year. And I can't explain it. The only thing I can suggest, and it's just my thoughts, I have no basis for it, is that hydro is concerned that if the class action lawsuit is certified, that the judge will tell them to stop what they're doing until the court has made their decision on whether this should be allowed or not. Now, granted, that will not help anybody who already has a smart meter, unfortunately. And this is why I think hydro is doing a push. Their initial business plan that was started in 2010 and installation was begun in early 2011 called for every home and every business to have a smart meter installed by December of 2012. And it didn't happen. It didn't happen because there were thousands and thousands and thousands of British Columbians who said it's not going to happen, not on my home. And there are still thousands of us out there fighting for the rights of everybody not to have one. Those people who have it now should be demanding that they be removed. These are fire hazards. These are known, proven fire hazards. Fires are happening, and no one is tracking. BC Hydro isn't tracking them. BCUC isn't tracking them. BC Safety Authority has been told it can't track them. I think, and it sounds like I'm being very self-serving and I'm blowing my own horn, but I think I know more about the fires that have happened in this province than anybody else. I've been in communication with them. They don't know. They admit they don't know. Shouldn't somebody know? Hydro says that they take their meters off and send them to Itron immediately. They don't investigate why they melted, why they burned, or why they caused fires. They don't care. They just want the meter replaced under warranty. I've got that in writing. And I've got from the Fire Commissioner and I've got from the BC Safety Authority that Hydro is allowed to remove evidence from the scene of a fire because it's their equipment. So people are being harassed to have these fire hazards on their home. They're being lied to. They're being told that Measurements Canada has changed its requirements and that the analogs no longer meet those requirements. That's not what Measurements Canada says. I've asked them. Measurements Canada says they don't know what they're talking about. They really don't care. All they're concerned about is accuracy of measurements. So if the analogs are still accurate, if they've been certified, leave them on there. They don't care. Hydro will lie and say, these are, the lithium battery is the same as the battery you have in your watch on your wrist. If you believe this, I've got a bridge for you to buy. They are saying these things and they are pressuring people. And they're saying you don't have a choice. You're getting a smart meter and you can have one with the transmitter turned off if you wish. I want to know what the difference is from BC Hydro's point of view with having a smart meter with the transmitter turned off or an analog. Both have to be read manually. Why the push? They're telling people analogs are not available. Yeah, they are. People in California can buy them. They're putting brand new ones on in some places. So why can't we have them? If I buy one, have Measurements Canada certify it, and have an authorized, even a Hydro person install it on my home, what would it be? What would be the difference? And Hydro can't tell me. Again, my suspicious mind is working overtime, and what I'm thinking is, once we all have transmitters on our home, whether they're turned off or turned on, Hydro in its typical bullying fashion will say, if you want power, you have to turn that transmitter on as well as the second transmitter, the Zigbee chip that talks to all of the appliances in your home. That's their method of operating. You either do what I say or we'll cut your power. And I suspect this is what they're going to do. They'll put you on time of use billing, which increases the rates that they get, the payments that they get, and they will be able to get our data. I think that this is what's going on, Jim. They want these things on our homes before the judge can say, no, you can't.
Well, if analogs weren't available, what does the province of Saskatchewan do? Because they took out all the smart meters and have banned them.
Well, they are putting on new smart meters. I'm sorry to tell you, they did put on new analogs for a while, but now, I don't know if it started yet, but I read that they were looking at putting on a new type of smart meter going with another company. And that's not going to protect them. Every smart meter that I've read of has had fire problems. They all have some pretty basic design features that engineers have found to be quite dangerous, like the switch mode power supply and the remote disconnect switch. And many have lithium batteries, not all, but many have those batteries. So, but in big states like California, where there are more people than in all of Canada, people are allowed to keep their analogs. Where are these people getting their analogs? The same place we would if we were allowed to, from companies like Hialeah and other companies that make and have made analogs for decades. And you know that always the market, if it demands, the companies will respond. If they were told we're going back to analogs, they would be available in a minute. They still are being made. They could just increase their production just as they did before.
He also said one of Hydro's arguments against analog meters is that if you're using solar power or wind power and actually generate more power than you use and put it back down the line, that analog meters cannot measure that.
Yeah, they're giving people who have solar panels a major hassle right now. They're telling them that they don't have a bidirectional meter when they have an analog. And of course, both of you and I both know that's not true. Analogs do run backwards. And many people who've had solar panels for years have had analogs running backwards. Now, Hydro is telling these people they aren't bidirectional. Just one more hydro lie. But the reason for this is because the analog credits you at the same level that it's charging you. At the same rate, you're being charged Y and you're being credited Y. They don't want this. They want to be crediting you with less for that, for the energy that you're putting back into the system. So they're making money off of you. And the analog doesn't do that. The smart meter will keep track. Just as it keeps track of time of use billing and everything else, it can keep track of exactly how much power you're putting back into the system. And they will give you a lot less for that power.
And time of use, too. That would force people, if they went and got an electric vehicle, to recharge it overnight. But, of course, what's the problem with that? Because you're not using it. Yep. But, unfortunately, when you come home from work, you have to turn the lights on, you have to cook food, and that's when they would nail you at the highest rates, right?
Well, and not only that, think of all the people who don't have who don't work, who are left at home all day, or who stay at home. Those are the most vulnerable in many cases. The elderly, the disabled, and young families. Those are the people who would pay through the nose for any power that they use during the day, during the peak hours. The peak hours usually are something like from, say, 8 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon, or 6 in the afternoon, and then it drops down again in the evening, and then it goes down again overnight. But see, it's flexible. They can find out where the peak periods are, and they can say, okay, it's no longer from 8 until 4, it's from 8 until 12, and then from 3 till 9, or something. They can change it anytime they want to, so that you basically are at their mercy. Whenever you want to use power, if it's a time of, quote, peak use, they'll charge you more. And they justify this by saying, well, buy some of these new smart appliances that are equipped with transmitters that will be emitting radiation throughout your house as it speaks to the smart meter, and you can use the timer on it. You can set a timer so that your clothes wash at 2 in the morning, or that your dishwasher turns on at 2 in the morning. If you're living in an apartment or condo, your neighbors will love that.
Well, we have rules that say you can't do your laundry after 10 o'clock at night.
Yep. Or sometimes on the weekend during the day or something like that when they think people would be most disturbed. Yep. So they're itching to get time of use billing in. I've told you many times before that even though Hydro says they have no plans, they had it in their business case that all infrastructure would be ready by, I think it was July 1st of 2012. And it was there. It was one of the first things that they've completed. So all they need now are smart meters on all the homes. You know, they could do time of use billing now for those people who have smart meters. But then they'd be saying, well, we don't want it. There are other people here with analogs. We want our analogs back too. And they'd have a riot on their hands. Once they have smart meters on every home, then it's harder for us to riot or revolt or, really put up a stink. So, there are many reasons why those of us, those thousands, many thousands of us who are still fighting, need to be joined by people who have smart meters. We're fighting on your behalf, and you need to join us. You need to be looking at what's happening. You need to be realizing that you're being irradiated. Your family is being irradiated by the radiation that's being emitted. Your home is a fire hazard. Your data is being gathered. And you're going to be hit with higher rates. Inevitably, you will see time of use billing.
We'll have more with Sharon Noble right after the break.
Unbelievable harmony, spectacular performance, the ultimate tribute to the Everly Brothers and Simon and Garfunkel. Bird Dog and the Vintage Electric Band coming to Fort Langley, Mission, White Rock, West Vancouver. Buy online and save at ontourtickets.com.
In Goddard we trust.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Sharon Noble. Sharon, one electronic hazard perhaps that we haven't heard anything about is all the brand new cars that are using radar to make them safer, giving them automatic braking and so on if it senses an accident up ahead. Well, but doesn't basically that turn our environment into an open-air microwave oven?
Oh, yeah, and it's not just the radar. all the new cars now are coming out with, those devices for checking the if you're in the right lane, or if you're changing lanes erratically, or the GPS, all of these things. Yes, you're right, Jim. The level of RF in those cars is extremely high. My husband and I bought a new car last year, and we took our meters with us as we went to check them. And it was virtually impossible to get a car that did not just reek of RF, and if not that, dirty electricity, magnetic fields. The magnetic fields were very, very strong. And it's because of all the electronics that are in the cars these days. You cannot get away from them. People who are sensitive, who are suffering from what is like an allergy to electric fields and electromagnetic radiation, are searching desperately for good used cars that were, 10 years old or so before all of these fancy electronics were put in place. And many of the cars that we measured had the highest electronic magnetic fields right under the seats. So your entire body is being exposed to this as you're riding, both the back and the front seats. So children who are sitting in the back seats are really being exposed to very dangerous levels. It's quite startling when you see it. I didn't expect the meters to show that high a level.
You said a teacher has been fired for warning about the Wi-Fi hazards in her classroom.
Yes, this happened just recently in the last week in Maryland. As you know, all teachers are so very concerned about the children in their classrooms. They take their responsibility very, very seriously. Unfortunately, many teachers are not aware of the dangers that the Wi-Fi modems pose. Classrooms are by and large fitted out with fiber optic cables, so children could use their computers safely, more quickly, more efficiently, and more cheaply, but above all, more safely. This young teacher, and I believe she taught grade 3, was dedicated to educating herself. She found out about Wi-Fi that was being put into her school. This was about 4 years ago. And she discovered that there were many scientific studies showing that this 2B carcinogen was very dangerous, especially for young children. And so she started petitioning the school board. She presented before them many times. She sent them many, many articles. She offered to bring in experts to speak with them. And she worked so hard, but like most schools, they would not allow her to tell the parents. The teachers are in a tough position. They are run by the school boards. And if they don't do what the school boards say, they can be fired. And unfortunately, it seems that the unions are not terribly supportive of the teachers. I don't understand the relationship, so I can't speak to it. I wish some teachers would call in one day and explain. But this teacher worked diligently trying to educate the school board. And she was arguing about a month ago that the parents have a right to know. They have a right to know that there are industrial strength modems in every schoolroom. And she had turned hers off when it wasn't being used. You can download to a computer and then use it in airplane mode. And that's what she was having her children do. They were learning their lessons. They were doing everything they needed to do. But it wasn't according to the school board's regulations. And when she was speaking with them just about 2 or 3 weeks ago, they attacked her on this. And she said she admitted that she had turned the modem off or talked to a teacher in another schoolroom in her school to do the same thing to help protect the children. And they fired her.
What about the constitutional right to free speech?
It doesn't apply, apparently, if you're a teacher. I don't understand the relationships here. The teacher was trying to do her duty. She's sworn to protect those children, just as the school board members are, in parentis locus, in place of parents. They have the same responsibility to take care of the children as if they were their own. And this young teacher is doing just that. The parents are not being told. The same thing is happening here in British Columbia. The school boards are refusing to tell the parents. if the children go on a field trip, the parents have to sign an agreement to allow the children to go on a bus. But the parents are not even being told that these children are sitting under and beside these huge modems all day, every school day, even if they don't have computers in their rooms. There's a case, and I think I've mentioned it to you before, of a grandmother who's been fighting for years for her grandson, who became sensitive. He was coming home and she didn't know what was happening to him. He was having migraines, he was sick to his stomach, and he was having nosebleeds. And over the weekend or during the summer, he was fine. He'd go back to school, and he loved school. Every day he'd come home and he'd be sick. The teacher was calling him to bring him and saying, bring him home. He's sick again today. We don't know what's going on. And then she discovered that there were Wi-Fi modems in that school, even though the kids were not using computers. She went to the principal and asked him, please turn these off. They're not using their computers yet, maybe not for another year. And he said the school board would not allow him. He couldn't shut the computers off, even though the modems, even though the computers were not being used. This is a very, very heavy-handed tactic that the school boards are using. And I think it's shameful that parents are not being allowed to know this. I know parents who have asked if they can hand out flyers about this to the parents as they come to pick their children up, and they've been told no, not on school grounds or they'll be arrested. Parents have been asked if they would put them in newsletters that are sent home or on the school's website, and of course they refuse. Parents deserve to know this, and if they don't, they won't be able to connect the dots. When the children are being sick, they won't know why, and the doctors won't know why. It's a shameful thing, and it's not only the parents and the children. The teachers are living with this every school day, all day long. And many of these teachers are young, will get pregnant while they're teaching, and this could very well endanger that unborn baby.
Sharon, what's your update on the U.S. electronic warfare exercise that they're doing out of Washington State that's spraying southern B.C. with extra electromagnetic radiation?
So far, the protesters in Washington and many in British Columbia have slowed it down. It was supposed to have started in September of last year, and it was started surreptitiously without anyone being told about it. And as soon as those people in Olympia and of the Olympic Peninsula found out, they went full bore to confront the Navy. They've postponed it. It hasn't been, as far as I know, it hasn't been started yet. But again, with the U.S. military, you'll never know. But the most recent thing is that the Navy is lying. They are saying that radiation is not dangerous, that and it is electronic warfare. Their goal is to use electromagnetic radiation and to shock transmitters that are on the ground and transmitters in other planes to test to see what the levels are that are needed to shut down their equipment or to disable the pilot. And they will be doing this 262 days of the year, 200 flights a day over southern British Columbia, inevitably southern British Columbia, because they have to sweep around to land at Whitby or wherever else they're going to be landing. Also, they're going to be flying at very low altitudes, something like 1,200 feet off the ground, and they will be shooting the area in northern Olympic Peninsula, which is a heritage site. The United Nations is very upset about this because of all the animals, the water life. There's a lot of life in that area that is going to be endangered. And these rays inevitably will hit the lower areas. Areas like Souk on Vancouver Island are just maybe 5 or 6 miles across there to the Olympic Peninsula. It's not that much further to Victoria. So, we are all at risk for this. And despite letters and phone calls to our MPs and our MLAs, we haven't heard a thing from anybody. I'm disappointed. I thought at least Elizabeth May would stand up and yell about this in Parliament. But I haven't heard anything from anybody. It's as if they don't know. And they do know because they're getting information from a lot of people. This is bad stuff, Jim. And they're going to be flying planes that are called growlers. And the noise level is going to be excruciating as well. 200 flights a day.
Well, they're called growlers not because of the noise they make, but because they'll make your headsets growl from all the electromagnetic radiation they produce, because their job is to jam enemy signals. So what's that going to do to your local TV reception, for example? Nobody knows.
Nope. Cell phone? What about emergency vehicles and things like that? But Whidbey Island, the people on Whidbey, are already complaining about these, quote, growlers and all the noise they make. That maybe they may not be why they really call them that, but the people on Whidbey Island, that's why they call them growlers. They say it's unbelievable, the noise. And they don't have nearly the planes there right now. This is stuff that could be done in deserts where there isn't life to worry about. Why aren't they doing it down there? You know, there are huge swaths in the southwest that are basically uninhabited. They could be doing it there. They've chosen not.
Well, sure, if they fly out of Edwards Air Force Base in California, the reason it's there is because there are no humans that live nearby.
Yep.
It's amazing. Sharon, thank you very much for chatting with us.
It's been my pleasure, Jim.
My guest has been Sharon Noble, Director of the BC Coalition to Stop Smart Meters. You're listening to the Goddard Report on TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Find us on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet. Our popular YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Comments about the show can be emailed to info@howstreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.